You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Welcome back, guys, to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. We really appreciate our loyal audience for tuning in. It's our mission here at Restaurant Rockstars to bring you guests that will help you run a stronger, more profitable business enterprise. So in this week's episode, I'm really excited to bring you Mr. Duncan Parker. He is the founder of a company called Dine, and he has created what he calls the LinkedIn for the food service space. He is providing a 100% free opportunity and place for you to post unlimited jobs and connect with talent. And we're talking all positions here. Now, Duncan is a former executive chef of one of the highest grossing boutique restaurants in the country, as well as being an awardee of Open Table's top 100 restaurants in America. So the guy's got talent. The guy has experience. So you got to listen, because this episode will help you solve that pain point. We'll be talking all about how the system works, the software, the documentation, the scheduling feature, and background checks, and how staff can post resumes, and how all this can happen online seamlessly wherever you are. So you're not going to miss this episode. Stay tuned. Fellow operators and managers, forget the old way of doing business. It's time to automate your back of house. To reduce food costs, optimize labor, increase efficiencies, and grow sales and profits, you need a system. The one simple system that does it all is called Restaurant 365. Restaurant 365 is a cloud-based, restaurant-specific, all-in-one accounting and back-office platform that seamlessly integrates your POS, payroll provider, and all your vendors. Use it to generate accurate, user-friendly, real-time reports to make immediate data-driven decisions. Restaurant 365 eliminates manual, error-prone processes and is designed to grow with your business. Restaurant 365 handles inventory management and helps reduce food cost. It streamlines the payables management process and automates bank reconciliations, while the scheduling feature engages employees and helps reduce labor cost. To run a stronger, more efficient restaurant, take a closer look at Restaurant 365. Check it out at www.restaurant365.com/rockstar. Guys, it's no secret that labor is a huge challenge right now. But putting help wanted signs in the window is not the way to find great people, especially if you're looking to fill positions in multiple locations. Instead, the answer is Fountain. Fountain is the all-in-one talent platform especially built for teams hiring at scale. See why over 5,000 businesses, including Burger King, KFC, Taco Bell, and more, are using Fountain to find, hire, and onboard new employees today. With Fountain, you can find more quality experienced candidates faster. You can shorten the time to hire and the employee onboarding process. You can track cost per hire and time per hire. Get automated SMS communication and automated document collection. Head on over to www.fountain.com/rockstars and receive a demo plus free personal onboarding, a $500 value just for becoming a new Fountain customer. Check it out. Now, on with the episode. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant Rockstars podcast, engaging topics that help restaurants build their brands, rock their profits, deliver amazing guest service experiences. Super excited today. I have Mr. Duncan Parker, and he is building, or has built, what he calls the LinkedIn for the hospitality and food service industries. He has a 100% free space for restaurants to post unlimited jobs to connect with talent. So especially in this day and age of a labor shortage, everyone is struggling with this. The audience listening today, I'm sure a lot of you are having this problem. So welcome to the show, Duncan. I know you've got some solutions to this.
Hey, Roger. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks for being here. This is going to be a really robust topic, of course, because it's on everyone's mind. You know, I was at an industry conference months back, and I heard that the average tenure of a new restaurant employee is just 4 months, which was really a staggering statistic to hear. But even more worrisome, it costs an employer somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 every time they find one of these people. They hire them, they get them up to speed in the job, and then for whatever reason, they either lose them or fire them, or the person quits within that 4-month time, and it's lost time, lost productivity, wages, all that kind of stuff. No restaurant can afford to lose thousands of dollars every time this happens. So let's start this whole conversation before we get into Dine gigs and what you're doing for the industry, which everyone wants to hear about. Why don't you tell us your backstory, how you got interested in the hospitality business, maybe early influences, early jobs, and then, tell us all about Open Table, top 100 restaurants in America. Tell us how you were an executive chef. I'll leave that up to you. I don't want to give anything away because it's your story and you've got a lot to tell us.
Yeah, well, actually, thanks a lot. It's an interesting story, as most food service kind of journeys are. Let's see. I started working in restaurants when I was 12 or 13 years old. My parents owned a food advertising agency, so everything that they did was specifically centered around food. My grandfather was a butcher, owned a grocery store. So you could say I've always had a lot of food influence in my life.
It's in your blood.
It is. It's really, I can't get away from it. Wow, I finally figured that out about myself at the ripe age of 40. But yeah, so my mom and dad always loved the restaurant business and food service business. They were super important and kind of pushing me in that direction when I was looking for my first job as a teenager. Through a friend of theirs who owned a restaurant, as often happens, got me into the back of the house, starting to wash dishes, just as a kid. Of course, when you're in the back of the house, you look at the front of the house and you see all the tips everyone's making, and you kind of want to crawl out there. So by the time I was 14, I ended up starting to work in the front of the house, bussing tables and that sort of thing. And that began a very, lifelong love affair of working in the restaurant business. Continued throughout high school, worked in both front and back of the house. And I'd say through college, I went to School of Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City and served tacos at a Mexican place up there in the city while I was in school, and also down in Florida in St. Augustine. Went to college at Flagler College and continued to work in restaurants down there. Finished up school, still worked in restaurants, moved to Los Angeles, and decided it was time to maybe put my degree to work or give it a shot, and ventured off to Wall Street for almost a decade. And the whole time I was there, I was constantly thinking about, going back into the restaurant business and how much I missed it. And in 2014, I had an opportunity to do that, to come back into the restaurant business. I took over a restaurant that was, had an opportunity to come in as a general manager of a restaurant that had been significantly off its highs from 5 years before or so. And it was kind of the situation where we didn't really know how long it was going to last. We didn't know if the restaurant was going to be able to turn around, or if it was just going to kind of limp along. But yeah, I went in and put a bunch of new systems into place and just kind of worked really hard. And 10 months later, shocked to get the notification from Open Table that we won top 100 in the United States. So it's a significant turnaround.
That is significant. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's a nugget of information that a lot of operators are going to really want to know, because I'm in a similar situation right now. I've been out of the business for 5 years. I just bought another restaurant, and that's a turnaround situation. And it's all about systems, as you mentioned, and it's all about knowing your critical numbers, and it's all about marketing, and it's all about customer service, and it's all about building up all these things so that they complement one another. How did you turn around the situation to rise to such a height where, Open Table named that restaurant one of the 100 top restaurants in America? An incredible accolade. Like, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced that got you there, and how did you tackle those challenges?
It was the kind of thing, I wish I could say that it was easy. The first year was really tough.
Yeah.
No
doubt.
we were just kind of in there. Where I think we had a staff of 7 people when I came in. I mean, it was, basically just the bare minimum number of people to keep it running at that point. I was wearing a lot of different hats, doing whatever needed to be done. Looked around. There was a lot of things that needed to be improved upon, but the place had good booms, and the food was good. So, that was important. I think it needed a stabilizing influence probably in the restaurant, for the staff, and just for people to understand that, hey, this guy's in control. It's not going anywhere. But really, it was the kind of thing. We didn't have any money for marketing. We didn't have any money to, really start a buzz or hype or something like that. We, kind of were beyond the point, I think, of patience of trying to bring in a new chef or, do something like that. So we're really in this unique situation of where we had to just kind of look at where we were and what we had. And what we had was a really beautiful space and a part of town that's kind of known for going through cycles of, of prosperity, I guess you would say. And we had this staff that was really cool, kind of edgy, punky kind of people and stuff. Lots of musicians and, artists and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And once it got stabilized a little bit and things were starting to get more consistent, people started coming back. It's the kind of thing where we probably do 150 covers a weekend or something like that. And then, through the course 2 years later, I think we did, over 1,000 in just, 8 or 10 hours of service,
Significant increase there.
And so what it was really was like, it's really bizarre that it worked so well, but it was understanding who our customers were. It really changed the music significantly from what came in, and that kind of changed the whole vibe. As we increased, business and things started stabilizing more and more, when we hired, we would, I was sure to kind of hire people that jived really well with the people that I already had in place. I was kind of careful to cultivate in a culture of kind of like, around music and just edgier people, and just really kind of embrace, the area where we were and what we had going for us at the time. And it's something that really resonated. And the success was just a wild thing to be a part of. As most restaurateurs will tell you, it's probably the least money I've ever made in my life, but it was by far the most rewarding experience that I've ever had, because it was just amazing to watch little tweaks and changes and effort that you put into place, in so many different ways, into your employees, into the food, into the experience, all the way around, and just to see that immediately pay dividends with people coming back, people raving. It was a really wild thing to be a part of. I remember right around that first year, I didn't really think we were ever going to get out of it. I didn't think it was ever going to kind of turn around. It was just kind of thing where we just showed up every day, but business kind of kept increasing. And one day, after a shift, I, closed the place down, walked across the street, had a drink somewhere else, and kind of got inundated with people asking me, if they could work there, and kind of. It was a lot different than the previous experiences that I'd had to that point. And it kind of clicked. I was like, wow, something is really changing. And, it happened fast. It's like poof. So, it was a really wild experience overall.
Do you know how you were recognized by Open Table to get such a highly acclaimed award, and what that did for your business after that was announced?
Yeah, so with Open Table, it was based on customer reviews. Mm-hmm. I don't really know what the specifics of what went into their algorithms, but I do know that just from my own anecdotal research,
Yes.
it seemed like they chose one or two per state.
Okay.
And so, in the state of Virginia, in our category, we were, selected. And they said that was based on customer reviews. And I think probably part of it was because we were doing so much business that we had so many more customer reviews than other people. And, when you're doing a pretty good job all the way around, the average tends to, scale a little bit higher. We probably, by far, we didn't have, a world famous chef. We didn't have, a lot of things that a lot of other places did have. But what we did right was we made people really happy and created an experience that was really unique and special.
And that came across in those reviews. And that's amazing because that just led to further and further new business, which led to increased covers and then ultimate accolades. And that's a beautifully powerful thing. And it's something that just can't be ignored. So, every restaurant owner and operator and general manager really needs to pay attention to what those reviews are saying. And don't take for granted just because you get a couple of good reviews that you're coasting along and you're doing great, because the next thing you know, it's very hard to please all the people all the time. And you really need to address those negative reviews in a positive way and make it right for the customer if it is an issue, because overall that's your PR and that's where everyone goes. So you did an amazing job with that, but it wasn't just managing the reviews. It was literally building an infrastructure where everyone had a mission, it sounds like, right? You must have had a mission statement that everyone was on board with, and you probably didn't have much turnover, and you built a core staff of loyal employees and staff, and then that built a loyal repeat business clientele. So that's a powerful formula.
Our turnover was less than zero for
awesome.
2 years.
Yes.
It was kind of thing. Everybody got better at their job.
Yeah.
And when we needed to hire new people, there was usually a pool of people that were just waiting to kind of come in. But we were in expansion mode, at that entire time. And it was crazy. And people would come in and work a brunch shift, for 4 or 5 hours, like a server, and walk out with $700 or $800. Nobody was going to leave that,
Of course not. I had a similar situation myself. Yeah, very low turnover, very high retention rate. People made great money. The chemistry of the team was so strong that if somebody didn't fit, it's like they voted people off the island. I didn't have to fire anyone anymore. It's like the team forces people out that just don't fit the team. It's a beautiful
absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, and it was it was really kind of unique. There was times where we pay a lot of attention to reviews and managing reviews, and reviews are a tough thing because sometimes they're coming from your competition who are just trying to stab you in the back, and you don't know where these things are coming from.
I know, that's right.
There's but you can't really placate to the reviews constantly. You have to placate to the experience constantly and make sure that you're delivering the same consistent experience over and over again. And if you're doing a good job, if you're really good at having that intangible, trait of creating that really unique customer experience, then, that's what kind of came back and paid huge dividends.
Right.
The whole time we weren't trying to appease OpenTable or appease, the review gods or appease any of these people. And when that information came out, it was shocking. I was floored. It was like, I didn't really even understand the gravity of the situation at first, because it was just such a big accolade. And, after that came through, it was like every month we were getting notified of, 2 or 3 other awards or accolades that, it was just like, where's this coming from? But it was coming from our customers.
Yeah. Well, momentum builds momentum, of course.
It
And it
does.
sounds like you were riding the wave, but you sustained the wave. You know, you didn't just sit back and say, wow, this is an amazing business and everything's on all cylinders and we're rocking and rolling. No, you kept the attention to detail. And every new accolade just probably fueled your energy and your passion to continue to deliver on those outstanding experiences. And that just kept fueling the fire. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
it was the little things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it.
It's all the if you love it, you know, and you put all your effort into it, and you're there, and you're present, and you try to build a good team, and you know, you're not punching the clock. Um, Great things are going to happen.
For sure. So let's move forward.
Sure.
You created something really powerful that I want to dive deep into, but how did you make the pivot or the jump, or where did you first get the idea for? Okay, so we didn't even mention the name of what you're doing. It's called Dine Gigs, okay? And we did say that it is the LinkedIn for the food service industry, 100% free space. Restaurants, pay attention. You can post unlimited jobs and connect with talent out there. So how did you get the idea for this, and what were the logical steps you put in place? Because as I understand it, you're now a venture-backed company, and you've got a big multi-phase plan to expand this thing into other areas that will obviously benefit the hospitality business, but it really began with the original platform of Dine Gigs. So take me there. Take us there.
Yeah. So I guess it goes back to, you know, while I was running Lulu's at that time, there was, you know, there's this tendency for restaurant tech companies to kind of just, you know, hand you a point of sale system and say, here, this does everything. This is all you need. And, you know, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, there's a million details that kind of keep you trapped in the office all day long. And, you know, when I came back into the food service business after having been on Wall Street, where there's huge investment in infrastructure and technology, walking back into the restaurant business after being gone for 10 years was like, you know, walking into a time warp.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe nothing had changed. You know, literally nothing had changed. I mean, I remember when they brought in the color touchscreen point of sale systems, you know, back in the late 90s. And that was the last, you know, major change from inside the restaurant business as far as technology is concerned. And it was shocking. Around that time, since I'd been on Wall Street, you know, a lot of what we did was algorithmic trading and that sort of thing. And, you know, it's funny. I looked at the restaurant business the same way I kind of looked at that, which was it's really just executing the same line of code over and over again, you know, when a certain set of conditions are met. And from that, you know, I had been programming behind the scenes, and I've been, you know, doing web development and that sort of thing. And it kind of branched out into starting to create a platform that would manage a lot of these other little things. You know, when you're trying to sneak that dinner with your family away from the restaurant, and it's 7 o'clock, and you're looking at your watch, and you see the sun dim down a little bit, and you just know in the back of your head that the lights are on full blast in the restaurant, the music's wrong. You know, it's even as soon back as 2014 or 2015, there wasn't any way to manage that remotely. Technology happens fast, but the IoT devices that were making that possible had started to come out. And, you know, it started with tinkering with that and creating, you know, some little apps to kind of manage some of these different things. And for about, you know, a year, I went through and kind of designed a platform that would manage all these different aspects of restaurant management that weren't covered through the point of sale system. It was around that time that Craigslist began charging for job postings. And Craigslist has always been kind of the free food service job board. That said, it's not always a great experience, but it worked because restaurants needed a free place to post job ads. You know, it meets it meets their economies of scale. Restaurants will constantly always look for a place to post free job ads because they're low margin businesses at the end of the day.
Right.
And so when they started charging, it was just kind of insulting. And it just, when you're walking through your restaurant, you're, looking at your expenses at the end of the month and kind of, what you avoided spending $150 on like a new towel dispenser or something like that. And then you see how much money you spent on Craigslist posting job ads. It just kind of got under my skin. And as, time moved forward, you'd find people trying to retrofit different other social media platforms for, trying to get that free, job posting or something like that. And those, for other reasons, just also didn't work as well. And it just became obvious that this is what the industry wants. It's demanding this. Someone has to create a way that isn't just what we've seen before, which is just, some sort of classifieds on the internet. We need a better experience. There's several reasons for, why I thought that, but the idea was, this is one of the biggest industries in the world. Food service in the United States, we have something around 10% of our workforce working in food service. And it's even higher when you start going around the world. It deserves its own place where people can connect. And it's a different set of needs because most, restaurant positions are more commodity positions because there is such high turnover. Therefore, there needs to be a system designed, not where like LinkedIn, where a job post is $500, but you're hiring a C-level executive who's going to be making several $100,000 a year. Sure, I'll pay $500 to post on that for that type of person. But when your turnover is 130%, like Panera's was last year, it's
unbelievable.
You don't really, you would never make any money if you're, having to shell out a cash like that every time you're placing the job ad. So it had to be approached from the restaurateur's perspective of the way it needed to be, and designed around that. So this is our first phase that we're releasing now. And I designed it, to be entirely free forever for restaurants and to make it, better for restaurant workers too. One of the big things that happens nowadays that people don't realize, and it actually happened to my girlfriend when she was applying for restaurant jobs a couple of years ago. She's a bartender, and she sent her resume to a blind company on Craigslist, as often happens, and she kept getting these texts from random phone numbers and that sort of thing, and random emails, propositioning her to to go on webcams and stuff all around the world. And we were like, where is this coming from? And we realized that it was fake restaurant ads being placed on Craigslist targeting young people, and it's like, enough.
No kidding.
Enough already. Like, we need to straighten this out and just have some transparency, right. And, get everybody on the same playing field, verify the restaurants, give some people some sort of, reassurance that they're in a reputable, safe platform where they can speak directly to the companies where they're applying for jobs. The type of experience you'd expect applying for a job in any other industry.
Killer idea.
Thanks. So yeah, we're going back in 2014, 2015. We had run its course. Lulu's today still. It's really amazing. It's still in top 100 on OpenTable. They've done really well. Really proud of it. Really proud of everything that they've done and the whole success of the business. But I moved on because I was building Dine games at that point, and most of my energy had been focused on the front of the house and service directly. I've grown up cooking in restaurants, and it had been a while since I've been right behind the line full time. So my sous chef went to a new restaurant, And I kind of called him up one day and I said, do you think you could sneak me on the line over there cooking so I could get a little bit of experience and kind of build some back-end tools or come up with some ideas for it to make sure that the back of the house was being focused on as much as the front of the house for the entirety of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he said, sure. So I snuck in as a grill cook to this restaurant called Cabana Rooftop here in Richmond, which had just opened, been open about a month, maybe less. And, got back on the line. It was kind of rough for a couple of weeks, but I caught up. The place was a wild success on its own from the initial open. It was, unlike anything we'd ever seen in the city. Beautiful, $10+ million build out. It was pretty insane. It was kind of a victim of its own success straight out there in the beginning. It was, it's crazy to think of the number of people that we had come through at a night sometimes. To give you an idea, I think our busiest night when I was executive chef there, we did 27,000 in food and something like 130,000 in liquor.
That's amazing.
It was wild.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So what had happened was, we've been there about a month or so, and there was extreme pressure trying to meet those crowds every single night. And there was just, a typical shakeup in the kitchen at that point. And they looked around and kind of pointed at me and said, hey, that guy's had some luck at this before. Let's, put him in the reins. I ended up becoming an executive chef and kind of trying to see, or I saw the restaurant through its busy season, through all of that, which was, exactly the experience that I needed to complete making the Dine Gigs platform and to really understand, what was missing in the back of the house. We had a full-time kitchen staff, something like 18 people that were there from 6 a.m. to 3 a.m. I mean, it was a machine. And, in that time, really got it humming. We met demand, and it was a wild thing to be a part of with that. But after we got through the season, it was about time, and I said, okay, this was October 2016. I decided, okay, it's time to go out there and make this Dine Gigs thing a reality. So that's when all that started.
Okay, so how does Dine Gigs disrupt the old school way that employers are sort of communicating, or restaurants are communicating with their employees? Like, that
was one of the toughest things that I had a hard time with. That people don't really understand. When you have a small restaurant with, somewhere, let's say 30 to 50 employees, a restaurant that size, you're probably only going to have 1 or 2 or 3 people, at the very top. And how do you talk to 30 to 50 people who are going to be coming in and out, over 18 hours a day, whose main goal in life is to avoid you? There's no enterprise email in restaurants. There's no memo box. There's a whiteboard that's constantly being erased and, God knows what being drawn on it. And it's the kind of thing where if you want to get something across, you're kind of limited to doing stand-up, meetings with your staff. But even then, it's difficult to distribute information. It's difficult to, on the fly say, hey, here's a new beer that we got in today, and here's all the information about it from the brewery themselves. How do you do that? And the answer is there is no way to do it. I think originally I tried to use Facebook to disseminate that type of information, and what I would find is that people would leave Facebook to avoid having, or at least block us, the restaurant, and tell us they didn't have a profile, on Facebook, because they didn't like the fact that their personal Facebook profile was intertwined with the business. And their managers and coworkers are seeing what they're doing in their private lives, and I realized that this the idea of using like a wall feed similar to Facebook is a great idea, but you can't tell your employees to intermingle their personal lives with,
good point.
But you can tell your employees this is a platform that we use that, is a business application where we communicate this information, and you can put that into the employee, manual that this is where, all relevant information about the business is going to be, published. And at that point, that's a much different story than telling someone they have to use their personal Facebook for business purposes. That's
Sure.
specific. So I created a wall feed very similar to kind of like a Facebook or LinkedIn style thing. With, I think the main thing that we did with it that's a lot different than Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter is in those applications, the business has this omniscient third party kind of presence where you don't know who's posting on behalf of the business. You don't, it's just this voice coming out of the sky kind of. We changed that with Dine Gigs. And while you can post that way, we also give you the ability to post on behalf of the business so people know who it is that's talking to them. So if I put out some notes, some server notes for the front of the house, and your employees are looking at it, who are they going to talk to? They have to ask 3 managers before they get to the manager that actually has the information they want. Well, this way they know where the information is coming from. They can, go directly to that person. They can message that person. They can have communication right on the feed. It's entirely private to the restaurant, and it puts it all in one place.
So let's dive into that a little bit more. We're going to talk about obviously your website later and how people can find you, but let's walk through the process of how the service works for a restaurant seeking staff. Somebody's listening to this podcast and they're like, wow, Eureka, I love this idea. I need staff. I want to connect with talent. It's like, what are the steps right now? What do we do?
Sure. It's simple enough. You just go on dinegigs.com. You create a personal profile. From there, top right of the page, you can create a business. When you create a business, you just walk right through, enter all the information, and verify it just by checking a box. And we'll email you a postcard with a verification code to verify your address, the whole 9 yards. From there, you can go to the top right of the page and click Post a Job. For the first 15 days until your verification comes through, you can post unlimited jobs. It will say pending verification on your profile if someone searching for a job checks out your restaurant. But on your restaurant profile, you can upload pictures. You can give people a feeling of the culture that you've created in your restaurant. You're welcome to put up a thorough description. You can add team members who also have the authority to post on behalf of the restaurant or post job ads for the restaurant. So if you're delegating several managers over many different properties, that functionality is built in, no problem. It's very simple. There's no real catch to it in any sort of way. The only thing that we offer as a fee for a service on the platform is at the very top of the page, we offer featured ads where if you're in a big market like New York City or somewhere like that, where maybe they post 200 job ads a day and you want to stay at the top, we do give you, the ability to do that for $20 for 10 days. But, the entire design and the philosophy of the platform is that it's a chronological feed of job postings that, you have an opportunity to post as often as you like. We have applicant tracking, so someone can apply directly through with a couple clicks. You can contact them directly through the platform very simply. Probably one of our coolest features is that when you post a job ad, we all know how much time it takes. you can easily spend 30 or 45 minutes finding the right words to place on the job ad, find the right photos that you want to upload to give people, the feeling. It's hard to believe that much time does pass while we're, cultivating some of these job templates. Our job ads run for 30 days. You can cancel it at any time, but you can't reactivate any job ad with just one click. So after you create that perfect, job ad for a dishwasher or bartender or something like that, you only have to do it once. And it's free. It takes 2 seconds to put that job up once again. So it's all about saving you a bunch of time.
Nice.
And helping you collect all the different applicants. And the applicants also have an opportunity too from their profile to, one thing that we run into a lot these days is millennials, young millennials who are in their early 20s at this point, have been using Facebook a lot of times for 12 or 15 years. So 12 years at least. So what that ends up with is that, they have pictures of themselves when they're 10 or 11 years old on Facebook. And therefore, they're not really using their Facebook profiles because they see it as when they're applying for a job, they're embarrassed that their future employer is going to see, these pictures of them and not take them seriously. And so they see it as a strike against them.
Oh.
This platform gives them an opportunity to, put the foot forward that they want to be known for when a restaurant, is looking at their profile. They get to put up pictures relevant, to the time frame of their experience, the words that they want. They get to be, the employable person that they see themselves as, not a victim of something that they, posted 10 years ago on social media. So it's a cool platform. It's easy. It's free for everyone. You touched on it a little bit, but we've got a lot more that we plan to offer in the future, and the vast bulk of that we intend to make free.
So I think I'm hearing that you can post literally any front of house or back of house job, from management right down to line positions, depending on, it's anything, right?
You can post anything, including support jobs. I'm trying to think of most of them out there, but that could be a bookkeeper, it could be marketing support, it could be a door person or security. Whatever it is. The only thing that we limit it to is it has to be one of the predetermined categories that we've already set out. So you're not going to see Uber postings or Lyft postings within all the different job postings out there. It's specific to restaurants, and you're going to have a hard time manipulating our platform into using it for something, for other else than restaurants. It's that's why it's called Dine gigs. It's specifically for food service, and it's intended for owner operator and small restaurant group food service essentially. For McDonald's, Starbucks, the giants out there, they have every capability in the world of creating their own, food service job board, putting all their jobs in one place. They haven't. They don't. They don't really have a great experience for it either. But they can do that. Therefore, that's why I made Dine gigs specifically for, the 250,000 or so, I think, restaurants in the U.S. and throughout, even more throughout the world. They specifically fall in that kind of boutique category.
Right.
Where, they can't do it by themselves. So they need somebody to, kind of fill that void. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's the sweet spot of the industry right there. I mean, the everyday operator, whether you've got a single location or a multiple location, but you're literally a small chain or a restaurant group, and you're not one of those large brand name chains that have all the resources. And they need this. These are the people that need all the tools. So I think that's tremendous. So is it similar when you're a staff person looking for a new gig? You're literally creating a profile and you're building it out, and it's more than just a resume. You mentioned it's photographs. So potential employers can get a real sense of who this person is, not just on what's on paper.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you pick up from from working and having worked in the back of the house, people are really proud of what they're putting out and what they're a part of, different menus, different places where they've worked. I know a big challenge a lot of us have dealt with is, the kind of a lot of people in the back of the house these days, they're really interested in kind of building up all the different places that they've worked on their resume instead of like really kind of stick in one place for several years and working under a chef. And so, inside of that is sorry, I just got something that disrupted me for a sec. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So yeah, that's, one of the main things that we're trying to do is give people who want to create their own, presence online that really kind of displays what they do in the back of the house, or maybe you're a bartender, or maybe you're, a general manager. Those are probably the main people who would want to build out profiles and, kind of cater their profile to be kind of unique. For other, jobs throughout the restaurant, there's an opportunity for you to kind of share some of your personality, rather than maybe like your food and your drink styles or that sort of thing, and give people a feeling for, who you are. I mean, when I would put out a job ad for a bartender, it was amazing. I would get, 300-400 resumes in, a week, kind of overwhelming, I remember it usually happened on a Sunday where that ad would go out, and we were closed on Mondays, and you come back in on Tuesday, Wednesday, and you check, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get through the inbox, and every one of those resumes sounds better than your own. These people are really talented at writing, fantastic resumes, but that's all it is words on a piece of paper. A real differentiator could be, what other people could show you about what they do before, you even have a chance to call them, and set up interviews and that sort of thing. And that, makes things more efficient for everyone. Like, someone has a dynamite profile on Dine Gigs that, gives you a really good feeling of who they are as a worker and the quality of product that they put out and the quality of service that they deliver, that's going to move you to the top of the pack. And it's not
totally.
Yeah, it's not something that's difficult to do. You don't have to have an MBA in marketing or something like that, where, to give people that impression. It's helping restaurateurs get through, the huge stack and finding, the cream of the crop to help save them time.
Is video a component of this? Can they post a video of themselves and in, a couple of minutes that sort of puts their best foot forward? Is that also possible?
Yep, they can. We don't have inside of the galleries, they have the ability to upload videos.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely, they could do it there. We, maybe we'll integrate that into their profile picture, so they have kind of a chance to put up a little video if they like instead. That'd be pretty cool.
So how are you reaching restaurant operators and employees that are, the employers are obviously seeking help and the employees are seeking opportunities. So how are you marketing Dine Gigs to build awareness?
Yeah, it's a kind of a chicken and the egg kind of scenario. You have to build it up to get it out there, and you have to
right.
You have a two-sided market. So, but actually, I kind of looked back at like how Facebook did, and they were very specific to just focusing on building the platform inside of Harvard University when they started, right? And they slowly onboarded, most of the students at Harvard, and then they went to, other nearby Ivy League schools. That was kind of their, MO for how to expand and grow it. Now, if we apply that to this platform, it's pretty simple in execution. It's, you have a city like where we are right now in Richmond, Virginia, who, it's a great food town. And we, have several hundred fantastic restaurants. A lot of it has been the type of thing where we're going around and cultivating those relationships directly with the large restaurant groups in town. explaining the situation of, hey, we need the jobs to get you the people. So, we're getting the jobs online, and they're getting them up there for us. And then what we're doing is once we have several listed, we're coming back around from the social aspect and really targeting, people that are in the wheelhouse for what they're looking for. So, the jobs come first, and then, we've got Virginia Commonwealth University, University of Richmond around here. Essentially, there's something like 80,000 people below the age of, 28 years old, all within 5 square miles of where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah, awesome.
And it's really easy to, kind of target those people directly. But, it's the kind of thing where got to have the jobs first, and then I'll send the people to them. But that's a formula that really works well as we expand. So for every new city that we break into, the way that it works is, we meet with the large restaurant groups, ask for a little bit of support from them to, help get some jobs up, and we let them know, hey, this is when we're gonna, really start targeting your target demographic for employee. So that's the plan. That's how we're doing it. And there's other things that we do as well to kind of drive more traffic to the site in different places and just more awareness of it. But as far as how we've had the best success straight away, that's a formula that's working.
Awesome. So is there a background check function to Dine gigs? Is that something that you handle?
Yeah, so we actually have integrated with a background check provider. Phase 2, which we hope to get started on here shortly, will fully encompass the background check. We've actually made we've made a product with our background check provider that's specifically designed for restaurants, meaning the type of infractions that restaurants typically need to be aware of. And we also have different levels too. So most employees in a restaurant don't need to be background checked. It's an added expense.
Right.
You kind of know the people that have access to cash or access to alcohol, typically are held to a higher standard than
Yes.
a lot of other people. And so therefore we don't make you purchase background checks for just, carte blanche everybody that works in the restaurant. But, you can choose someone, say it's a bartender, and the main thing that you're concerned about with a bartender is, like here in Virginia, if a bartender's charged with DUI or drunk in public or any alcohol-related infraction, while that case is pending, they're not allowed to serve alcohol in the state of Virginia. But how often do they come clean and, tell their general manager, owner that they, got popped for drinking in public while they were at the beach last weekend? It's kind of something that probably slides under the radar a little bit. But if you're something you're really concerned about, as a restaurateur, then yeah, we're creating the functionality for, you to decide how, periodically you would want them, if you just want a quarterly check or something like that, on a couple of different employees. We're building in that functionality. Absolutely. Also, in states like New York have made it a lot tougher for, proving your employee's identity before you hire them. California and New York kind of leading the way on that. So we're also, integrating different technology to, help them verify that, their employees are who they say they are. And it's the kind of thing where if you ever had to reset your password on your bank account or something like that online, where they ask you, which 3 of these addresses have you ever lived at, that sort of thing, where, we'll integrate through a provider like LexisNexis or one of those where they actually, have to go through the process of verifying their identity. It'll get you 90% of the way there for most people out there, and gives you, as restaurants, just small businesses, but they're being held to stricter and stricter standards, and they're being required to be more compliant and have more proof of their efforts to be compliant. And so we're trying to do that heavy lifting so that they can focus on what they do.
So you're sort of touching on some of the future phases of this business and this opportunity. I think we've covered Dine Gigs as it exists today and the new platform really well. I think that's tremendous. Do you want to talk about, what your vision is for the future of Dine Gigs and what your timeline might be for some of these future rollouts of, the next phase?
Sure. I guess the next phase that we've come out and been pretty open about would be phase 2, which is what we call Dine HR. And Dine HR is designed specifically around, one of the worst things when you hire a new employee and they show up the first day, 30 minutes before opening, and they have an hour's worth of paperwork to fill out before anyone can train them. It's a disheveled experience for the employee.
For sure.
It's a disheveled experience for the manager a lot of times because you're looking for the one form that you ran out of the last time you had to hire somebody. And then, it makes it harder on the bookkeeper. It makes it harder, on everyone all the way around. Well, I'm of the mind that this is 2019. There's no reason why all of this can't be online. It's the kind of thing where if you have, it always happens at the worst time, but one of your employees will come to you and they'll say, hey, I had to change my bank account. Here's my new direct deposit information. When they do it, it's inevitably in the middle of a rush. Always. And, they don't realize you just have 3 other people ask you the same thing. You're dealing with your old stack of work that, is front on your plate, but they're dependent on that paycheck to hit a correct account on the correct day. And, most of us do Herculean jobs of actually getting that done. And, they'll never know how much we have to go through behind the scene. But this is information that they should be able to handle themselves.
Right.
They don't have access to these systems. There are several, international standards for how you have to handle technology of that level, including like social security numbers and that sort of thing. So there's a higher level of care that we have to take in creating this next phase. But what we're trying to do is give every restaurateur the ability to onboard directly through our platform, to schedule employees, to we have one of the biggest problems that we're trying to fix in scheduling apps is restaurants are really unique in that they'll have one employee who has 5 different job codes. That's 5 different salaries.
That's right. Yeah, exactly right.
And you look at most scheduling apps that are out there, they're designed for, okay, this is your employee. This is what they do. This is their job. You get into incredible complexity when, from a software development standpoint of trying to design a scheduling app that can say, hey, this is, Jane, and this is her job today, and this is the pay rate that she gets for it, and connecting them all together and extrapolating that out to all the different, modules that you're creating and have them all communicate and connect directly. Not impossible by any means, but it takes some critical thinking. And so that's one thing we're setting straight away to do with that. I'm looking to, it's always just like with Craigslist. It's always gotten under my skin that scheduling apps charge $50 plus a month, to run a restaurant. I'm kind of the mind of, hey, if I can build this for $50,000, I should probably give it away for free and build up a huge base of really satisfied, restaurant customers, that really enjoy it. I can probably find some venture capital partners out there who will help me do that, and I have. And that's the goal, to give these things that are, really technology commodities that, have a one-time fixed cost kind of associated with it, and really, really small continuing costs into the future, but create such a big difference and can make, your clientele so happy. Why aren't more people doing this? I mean, at the end of the day, it's amazing. Even a point of sale, I could build a point of sale for $100,000, but for some reason it costs, $10,000 a year for that same point of sale that you could have built yourself with a software developer for $100,000. It's not a fair economy of scale. The kind of the thing that I'm really conscious of that happens inside the restaurant industry is, when a new innovative restaurant tech company comes out, what they do is, they rise up through the ranks. They have a better product, and often, in my opinion, only slightly better than the legacy products that are out there. And then once they mature, the price on them skyrockets, and they enter the old guard of, the 10 technology companies that kind of control all of restaurant tech, who all have the same exact pricing, who have pretty much indistinguishable products. And it just becomes a beauty contest of, you're only going to choose one of us, and we all do the same 10 things. But, I think a lot of their value proposition is out of line with what they're charging. And I think that takes a new way of looking at restaurant technology, of executing it. And, a lot of ways, that's where the opportunity for someone like myself and, Dine Incorporated is that we don't have a legacy business model built in that we need to support. We can do it the way a restaurateur would do it if they had to design, a system from scratch. And that's what we're setting up to do.
What really amazes me about talking to you, Duncan, is you're kind of a Renaissance man, because I heard earlier in this podcast you talked about going to the Fashion Institute of Technology.
I did.
You've been an executive chef. You worked on Wall Street, and now I'm getting the sense that you're also a software developer. Like, how the heck do you do all this stuff? Like, where did it all come from?
I don't know. It's constantly curious, I think.
Yeah.
And it was the kind of thing where it all kind of happened on accident. I remember I had an interview back probably in 2009 or something like that, and the hiring manager looked at me and she said, "I have no idea what to do with you." And I took that as a compliment. But
it is a compliment.
It was didn't fit into a box. But really, what it was is, I had gone to school for at FIT, and then I'd gone to business school kind of also as a fallback, just in case that didn't really go the way I wanted. And FIT, I tried the industry out briefly after school, and it was kind of not a fit for me. The only job offer that I got while I was in school happened to be on Wall Street. So that was kind of the first place that I went back to after that. And actually, I learned a ton on Wall Street, but I never assumed that was a fit. It wasn't, necessarily my passion or.
Sure.
But while I was there, I learned a ton, and I, made the most of a career on it. But the whole time I was missing restaurants, and
runs deep. Passion runs deep.
That's all it was. I was just missing restaurants, and it's something I always cared about. And like I said, in the beginning, it's kind of runs in my family. It's kind of something that we've, always been focused on. And, I guess it's in my blood, and, I'm in the place where I should be now, but it takes you a long time to figure that out sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you. I was actually in the fashion business in Los Angeles for 3 years, but I didn't have a fashion background. I went to business school, so I had the business side of things, and I had a business partner that was a fashion designer. So we found the business to be ultra competitive. I don't need to tell you that. And we had some success. We got into Bloomingdale's and Nordstrom's and probably, 30 different boutiques across the country with our lines. But we found out that we kept getting knocked off by bigger companies. And the next thing you know, your designs would be in the local shopping mall in like 5 different stores. And it was so hard to, to compete with that. and to be a self-financed company just struggling to produce the next season's line, and all the cash flow would go right back into new fabrics and all kinds of other stuff. So, but what a ride. I mean, it was a definite learning experience, and I never thought I'd be in the restaurant business. An opportunity found me, and then I developed a passion for it once I started building restaurants out from scratch and growing those businesses. So, 5 years later, after selling restaurants, I just bought another restaurant, and I'm back in that gig now, in addition to doing Restaurant Rockstars. So it's interesting that the paths and the journeys we all take in this business, but the common thread is the deep passion and knowing that this is probably one of the most, if not the most difficult business I've ever been in, and anything that we can do to elevate the industry and help other operators succeed, that's a passion and gratifying. And I know that I get that sense in talking to you that you love to give back, and now you've created something tremendously useful that many operators are struggling with. And yes, it's going to be lucrative, and yes, you do have a venture-backed company, but wow, at the end of the day, you're still providing a tremendous service to the industry. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, really, I love restaurants, and I want to get back into the restaurant business. I don't know how long it's going to take me to build all this to my, finicky level of perfection. But, I imagine one day, there's going to be a time when Dine Gigs is complete, and I'll have a chance to go back to the restaurant business. And, what keeps me going every day in building this, because, just like anything else, it's, we are venture back, but that doesn't mean it's just easy peasy. It's always being in business for yourself is always a roller coaster, and really trying to change, the world and the way things are done.
Right.
It's a really difficult thing to do with a lot of this. But what drives me at the end of the day is that when I do open that restaurant, these are all the tools that I want, need, and expect to exist at that time. And, if I don't do it, I don't know who's going to. I don't know that it will happen. One thing I kind of jokingly say occasionally was, when I walked back into the restaurant after being out of the business for 10 years or so, I remember walking through the dining room and there was a light bulb out. And every day for like 3 weeks, I walked by it and I was like, somebody's got to fix that. Somebody's got to fix that. Somebody's got to fix that. And
it never happened.
One day it dawned on me. I was like, you have to fix it. Go fix it, And I laughed to myself. Just I don't even know why I thought that way. You know what I mean? But it dawned on me, and it was the same way with Dine Gigs. It was, talking to different restaurant tech providers out there, and I kept thinking to myself, when are you guys going to do this? When are you going to do that? This is so
wait. Hurry up and wait.
And I was like, you know what? They're never going to solve these problems because they don't know they exist. Because most of these companies that are out there in the old guard are technology companies trying to create solutions to problems that don't exist in the restaurant space. We're doing the opposite. We're tackling the problems directly and creating solutions for that. And that's, if someone who doesn't have intimate awareness of what the issues are, isn't the one that's creating the solutions to it, then, it's probably never going to be developed to the standards that, you and I have for what is going to be really game-changing on the technology side. And if the only thing that I have to really bring to the table is to, extremely dig in and beef up, my experience in technology and, how, that whole side of the business works, well, I was willing to take that on kind of years ago. And yeah, I'm in a unique position to, have the opportunity to bring something great to restaurants. It's also a lot of problems.
Well, it's very foundational that your ideas for this, and you've thought through all the thousands of details that went into this, but it really came from your experience from in the trenches and knowing the challenges you had and the challenges that needed to be solved and, not missing any of those details. So yeah, I'm really excited to share this with the audience. I think it's tremendous. Is there anything that we missed that we didn't talk about Dine Gigs or about the platform or about the phases or anything else that the audience needs to know that we've missed or didn't cover yet?
Well, I should probably say that, there's a lot more coming out there. We let's see, we are raising capital constantly. We've raised almost $1 million so far, which has been how we've been able to get this to this point. But we did create a crowdfunding campaign where anyone can buy a little piece of us. We made it really low, so even servers and bartenders and dishwashers who believe in what we're doing can have an opportunity to invest in our company. Just $165 is the minimum. And that's when I had the opportunity to start our round of capital raising. They don't give you many options out there. The previous round that we had done, the minimum investment amount was $25,000, and that's very typical of capital raises out there. That's got a Reg D 506C is what we had previously done, and that makes it really tough for your average person to get behind and get involved in something that's really cool. I think you have to have an average net worth of $250,000 a year in income, and you have to have $1 million liquid in order to be able to invest in a Reg D 506C. But a couple years ago, the regulation crowdfunding campaign came out, and there's far fewer constraints to that sort of thing. So we decided to do a crowdfunding campaign for this go around, and we're raising a little bit of capital there, and you can find it at startengine.com/dinegigs.
Let me write that down. Put it in the show notes.
Yeah, thanks.
Engine.com. Did you say /dinegigs?
I think it's /dinegigs. It might be /, not sure.
I'll check. I'll double check it before I put it out. Okay.
Yeah. So, it's that's one neat thing that we kind of have going on, and that has a lot of the details about our story, about everything that we're doing out there. But yeah, after phase 2, I could say phase 3 probably has some really neat stuff with it. But I should say that's when our mobile apps that start tying everything together come out, is in phase 3, and we're going to continue to bring things to the table in phases 4 and 5 that haven't been even thought of yet in the restaurant space. So it's going to continue to be atypical. It's going to continue to be extreme value. And my intention is to disrupt what's currently in place, because it doesn't work for restaurateurs.
Awesome.
Yep.
Tremendous opportunities ahead for you and the company, and for the people that will be using Dine Gigs. So awesome.
Thanks for your help in getting the word out. And it's taken a lot to get it to this point. With our I can tell you one thing, hopefully, that anybody out there that's listening is, of course, it takes a little bit of luck, for this whole thing, and serendipity. And when I left Cabana as exec and started working on the Dine Gigs platform, the original one, I banged it out myself entirely for, it took about 5 or 6 months. And I think it was May 2017 that I released the initial first Dine Gigs platform. It was May 12th. It was 8:02 p.m. we went live. And it was an hour later, I got a phone call from someone who I didn't know, who placed the first investment in Dine Gigs.
No kidding.
Yep. 1 hour after I launched it,
awesome.
With not one job on the job board yet.
I
made a little Facebook post to my friends to show them kind of what I was working on. And one of them pinged me and said, "Hey, are you looking for investors for this?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And sure enough, an hour later, was in contact with the guy, and a week later, the first check was cashed. And, here we are 2 years later, 2.5 years later. And from that point, and, I think we have around 30 investors in our company right now. It's been tremendous experiencing that. I didn't know I could do it. I didn't know that. I never wanted to be a technology CEO or someone like that. I wanted to be someone who solved these problems, and I thought I could do it. And for anybody else that's out there who envisions a problem that's not being solved, I want to just kind of pass the word along that you can do it. Believe in yourself, and if you put in the effort, a lot of times the universe will meet you halfway.
I love that advice. That's tremendous. Yeah. Serendipity. Lightning strikes.
It does. You just got to put in half the effort. A lot of times it'll meet you the other half. It takes a little bit of luck though. But yeah, it's you just got to keep going.
Well, I really appreciate your appearing on the podcast, Duncan. It's been great talking to you, and I think Dine Gigs is doing amazing things for the industry. So I'm really psyched for all the listeners that are tuning into this episode, because I think it's particularly relevant. As I mentioned, we're in the midst of this crazy labor shortage, and everyone's struggling with finding people, and here's a solution to that challenge. So thanks again for appearing on the show. That was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you, audience, for tuning in. Thank you, Duncan.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Guys, staffing is the foundation of your business, and nothing is more important. So you got to stay relentless, keep at it, and keep looking to find the best people for your business. I'm hoping Duncan Parker gave you a new resource to find talent for your restaurant in today's episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Every year I have a limited number of spots where I work one-on-one coaching people through their pain points, their restaurant challenges. And if that's something that intrigues you and you'd like some more information, why don't you email me, Roger, Roger, at restaurantrockstars.com. And we'll talk shop. We'll talk about what keeps you up at night. If you like the podcast, if you like what you're hearing, please leave us a review on iTunes. It's going to help other operators and managers find us. And once again, we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.